we are talking innovations in measurement. I thought we might dive into the kind of sticky stuff. First of all, what are you seeing as the most interesting areas of innovation in the measurement space at the moment? I know this is your wheelhouse. You have innovation in your job title.
Yes, which allows me to play in a lot of fields and with a lot of different players and people out there. For me, it's really about what I find very fun and interesting in the innovation space is where I can connect the dots across omni-channel executions with video at the core of everything that we're doing, but then also how does that play into all my other channels? How does that work with social? How does that work in the streaming? How does it work with video? How does it work with audio, display? How do they all work together? And then finding those companies that allow me and platforms that allow me to connect the dots and really understand how things are working. What's the effectiveness? What is that driving for my clients and their business?
So it's the total media measurement piece that you're really interested in.
Yes, and I think you have to start with video. It's where a lot of our budgets are. It's a lot where a lot of the attention is driven today is how am I spending my video dollars in streaming and linear, but then how do I put that all back together and how does that complement everything I'm doing in my full omni-channel strategies? At the end of the day, marketers are spending money in all these mediums. How are they working? So I know how to better invest every single campaign over campaign, quarter over quarter, and year over year.
So the TV and video measurement space at the moment is clearly going through a huge wave of change. And next year is going to be fascinating, with Nielsen One and other things coming. But there's clearly a much more competitive marketplace. Is that competition helping you get closer to your total media goal? Are you encouraged by the progress?
It's speeding up the entire process. There's a great person over at Paramount mentioned something about capitalism and driving innovation and a couple more competition, which drives progress. And I think that's what we're really seeing coming to fruition here is that where these companies were, the Video Amps, the iSpots of the world, they've been doing this for a long time now. The spotlight is now on them, which is now making us all think differently about how we're doing this and coming together and saying, hey, how do we then progress this? How do we enable it? But how do we make it real and not something we've been talking about? Because we've been talking about it for 10 years. Now it's becoming actionable.
I have to say, it's funny. I feel like I've done half a dozen panels with Travis over the course of the last 2 months, and he's an amazing panelist. I love it. But if I hear Travis say one more time, never in the history of capitalism. Sorry, Travis. My worry is now that everyone else is saying it, so I'm never going to escape from it. But hey-ho. So you're positive, basically, is the long and short of it.
I'm just an optimist in general, so that just doesn't help. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's really exciting to see how we can work together, bring our data, bring our partners, but it's not meant to be done in silos. It can't be done by any individual agency. It can't be done by individual networks or partners either. We have to work in collaboration for that to come to fruition so we can share data in a privacy-compliant way, but then also have it measurable and actionable, and that's what's really exciting. And this is for the advertisers. This is for our clients to make better buying decisions.
My friend Justin Sampson of Barb always says measurement is a team sport. Attention. How excited are you?
I mean, I love attention. I think it's bringing a new mix into this. Christy just did an unbelievable job talking about how we need to think about it, how we need to look at it. And it's not a single source. It's an element that's going to help drive better effectiveness and better understanding on how your campaigns are performing. I think the Holy Grail is you get the right reach, so bring your audiences to the table, but is the right reach actually driving those eyeballs to see my ad? Is it resonating? How is it resonating? And what is the outcome of that? So when we think about attention, it can do so much for our campaigns, and every advertiser is different. How a QSR will use it is different than a CPG, that's different than an auto. However, how we mix it, how we get it, and how we're scoring that's really key.
Quality. How excited are you about quality?
I mean, quality's always at the core of what we're doing. I mean, as a legacy TV guy, I had the luxury of always saying, well, everything I have is quality because I'm on the glass, it's television, it's great. I think as we start seeing this world collide with the digital, the streaming, the fast channels, YouTube, number one for unique reach time spent on connected TV, it's just like Coors Light, it's called hard facts, like it is what it is. So we need to understand how we're using that and pairing that together, then have those quality scores to make sure that we're showing up at the right place at the right time, and then understanding how that's working. And does quality yield to a greater return on investment? How is that working for our advertisers? Am I getting them in a right quality environment, which makes it resonate, which yields to higher brand recall, favorability, inevitably in action?
So let's get into the big question, I guess. There's clearly an enormous amount happening in the measurement space, multiple currencies, innovations in attention, all sorts of things. How do you actually, as an agency, operationalize all of this at scale? Isn't this just an extraordinary exciting moment, but also a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, no, it makes sure I have a job, so let's make it complicated. No, I mean, listen, I think the reality is that it is a lot, and every client's going to want something slightly different, but all of the same in a different way, right? So we're all going to have to play with all these different sources, and we have to figure out how we're going to be able to take that and enable it for our auto versus our QSR. I think it's exciting to figure out what is going to be the standardization that for everybody to work, and then how do we customize it for each different client, and then how do we package that and put it together. We have to make it less complicated. We have to figure out how we're going to work across different teams. I mean, to answer the question, how do we operationalize it? It's a lot of freaking work. It's collaboration. We're all big agencies, and we all have a lot of different departments that need to start working together in a more cohesive way as we then make measurement go across channels. So I can talk to the social teams and the programmatic teams and the direct buying teams and say, hey, we have to have some sort of common thread through all of this. We need to work together and how we're implementing, because it will be different from the walled gardens and what can be passed back.
Because I'm assuming each individual client, I mean, when I've spoken to Chrissy in the past, she always says that each individual brand is going to have to think about attention in a slightly different way. Are you going to have to create very different skill sets and teams to support different clients? I mean, our client needs going to become much more diverse.
They are, and they should be. I mean, that's part of our jobs as agents of record, to make sure that we are aware of the full marketplace, to deliver on what their goals and needs and wants are, so we can provide that best experience for them and make sure that everything they're doing is actionable, measurable, and understands the effectiveness. I think for that, do the teams need to be better educated, better trained, have to have a good pulse on the marketplace? Yes, absolutely, but that's part of our job. That's what we do representing our clients, and lazy is never going to be excused not to do something, so we need to make sure our teams are fully educated, equipped, and ready to rock and roll.
So, final question. Vendors. I've been talking a lot to people at the moment about client servicing teams within vendors, and it's a really big issue, isn't it? Because when you're leaning into a new measurement solution, your teams need support. You need people in the office helping you, make it happen. What's your advice to vendors? What do the best vendors do really well that makes it easy for you to operationalize a new measurement solution? Yeah,
I mean, it's education up and down the board. Just because the senior leadership decides to choose a partner, that doesn't mean that every single person at the organization now understands how that data works, how that measurement partner works, how that technology works. So I think it's so core to ensure that our teams are being educated up and down, whether you're an assistant, an associate, a supervisor, director, or a CEO or an SVP. Like, you need to understand how this works, how it can be implemented for your business. I think education is power, and as long as our teams are educated, they can better service our clients, and they have to want to do that, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of where this industry is going. We need to make sure education is all levels to ensure that they can actually be empowered to do the work they need to do for their clients.
And just to make it real, just one practical example of a vendor that has done this brilliantly for you. You don't have to name the vendor. I'm just really interested to know, what do they actually do? Did they have a team in your office for a week? Were they workshopping away? You were being hands-on through the interface?
A week in the office? One full week in the office? You know dentsu's policy?
I can imagine.
It's great. No, I mean, listen, I think we have some really good examples, quite frankly, of this, of somebody that recently decided to move everything into a platform-based style of buying for programmatic for premium video. So this partner came out and ultimately worked with our teams that are learning how to now transition to execute buys in a platform. I have video teams learning how to be programmatic traders on PG buys, which are, for all intents and purposes, easier than a PMP, but still complicated to a person that's used to putting one line item in a Prisma platform. So now they have to learn how to work in this platform, how they're setting their deal IDs up. The team was instrumental in coming in, working with the team every day. This is how our platform works. This is the 101 training. Now I'm going to help you put this buy into the system. Now this buy's in the system. This is how you're going to QA it. This is how you're going to check it. This is how you work with the vendor. This is how you make sure your deal ID is firing when the campaign is supposed to launch. They were there with us every step of the way, and they were also working with the vendors. It's about collaboration and working together in a triangulating it, the agency, the actual vendors we're executing the buy with, and the platform itself. I think that is a really good example of just giving the white glove service, because on that first campaign, they did 80% of the work. Right? Our team did 20%, but we learned. On the next campaign, it's going to be 50%. Then it's going to be 20%. Then it's going to be, I'm just going to call you when you fuck up. And hopefully we don't have to do that. But ultimately, it's going to be less and less, and our teams will be empowered, and they can start sharing that knowledge across the organization. That's why I need to get back to the office. But that's when those teams can start saying, hey, Team X, I started doing this already. Here's what we learned. This is how we're implementing it, and that's how we've seen the success.
And just a final quick question. Does that mean when you're doing your due diligence on a measurement vendor to decide whether or not to work with them, that their ability to support you through this kind of process is a critical consideration for you?
It's part of the RFI process that we do. How do you actually work with our businesses, with our teams? This isn't a set and forget. I'm not just going to take your measurement, apply a pixel, or apply your, and then walk away. You're there in this journey with us. If we want this to be successful, we need to make sure we're fully ingrained in what we're doing, and you're ingrained in our business and how we're doing it, because it is that customization we're looking to create for each client. So how are we going to make sure this is enabled correctly to be able to execute?
It's a team sport. Brad, massive thank you. That was fascinating.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome.